Okay, welcome back. So with respect to our last video, we have come across with signals. Okay, we have got enough to know regarding what do you mean by a signal, what are the different possibilities of signals. Okay, along with the values we have come across to know, what is the description we have come across to know, what are this signal as an prototype, sig action, sig mask. Okay, what is the kernel support for the signals. Okay, what's the relationship between sig CHLA and wait PID as an API. Okay, these are all things we have come across to know. Okay, so let us come across in today's class with respect to daemon processes. Okay, so before I begin across with this daemon processes, so get to know that usually whatever we are running across with the processes, those are all user defined processes there. Okay, so daemon processes are those processes which are run since you switch on the system till you switch off the system there. Okay, daemon processes are, in other ways you can call it as a system processes, or else these are the background processes which are run continuously. Okay, since when the system is bootstrapped and terminated. Okay, so till you are terminating it, it will be running in a background there. Okay, these are run for a very long time and it has a lifespan since begin till the end there. Okay, till the system has been shut down. Okay, so to specify some of the characteristics of a daemon characteristics are: it runs in background first and foremost. It it has super user privilege. Keep that in mind. Okay, no normal user. I cannot terminate, I cannot kill that particular process, or else I cannot do anything with that particular process there. Okay, so if I want to do something with that particular process, I require super user privilege there. Keep in mind, daemon processes do not have any controlling terminal there. Okay, they do not have any respective terminal which is controlling it. Okay, daemons are session and group leaders by themselves. Okay, they do not require any session leaders, they do not require any process group leaders or anything there. Okay, because whenever, if at all you remember, I had said across with, if at all there is processes called as P1, P2, P3 and P4. Okay, so at that time, so whenever these are being grouped togetherly, I call it across with a process group. Okay, like such process groups, when I group up together, I call it as one session there. Okay, so that particular session or else group leaders are also not there for any daemon processor there. Okay, so whenever you are coding, okay, so now comes a question that how this particular daemon process has been created. Okay, how this has been created. Daemon processes has been created using some of the coding rules there. What are those coding rules? One is, the very first one is, keep these things into mind because these are most asked question and definitive questions there. You call the umask to set the file mode creation mask to 0. You are creating this, you are using this umask in such a way that you make use of creation mask to 0 there. Okay, so where the file mode creation mask that's inherited could be set to deny the certain permissions. If the daemon process is going to create the files, it may want to set specific permissions there. Okay, that's the very first coding rule there. What the second one is, you are making use of this fork as an API and you are calling it, but you make the respect to you are exiting across by the parent there. So that is nothing but ultimately such kind of processes who are the leaders for them or else who are taking care there, the take cares are your init as a process there. Okay, so init as a process becomes your what do you say, ancestral process, which happens to be the you can call it as the caretaker for that particular process there. Then the third particular coding rule is, you call the set SID. Set SID is used to create a session there. You create a new session. Okay, so when you are creating a new session, who will be the caller becomes the leader there. It becomes a process group leader of a new process group and it has no controlling terminal there. That has been used across by your set SID as an API. Then the last one is, you change the current working directory to the root directory. This is the fourth particular rule which you are following across for a daemon processor. Okay, the current working directory inherited from the parent could be on the mounted file system there. Since the daemons normally exist until the system has been rebooted, if the daemon stays on the mounted file system, the file system cannot be unmounted there. Okay, then comes unneeded file descriptors should be closed. Whatever unneeded file descriptors are there, if they are opened, keep in consideration that they will be closed there. Then comes, some daemons open the file descriptors called out as 0, 1 and 2 to /dv/null, so that any library routines that try to send read from standard input or write to the standard output or error will have no effect there. Since the daemon is not associated with the terminal device, there is nowhere for output to be displayed. nor is there anywhere to receive the input from an interactive user. Okay. Then comes, even if the daemon was started from an interactive session, the daemon runs in the background and the login session can be terminated without affecting the daemon. If the other users log in on the same terminal device, we could not want the output from the daemon showing up on the terminal, and the user should not accept that their input to be read by the daemon processor. Okay. These are the 7 respective rules which you are keeping across for any creation of a daemon process. One is you call umask to set the file creation mask to 0. Then you call the fork and make the parent exit. The third one is you call set SID to create a new session there. Then you change the current working directory to the root directory. Unneeded file descriptors should be closed. Then some daemons open the file descriptors 0, 1 and 2 to /dv/null. So this is a special file which has your respective file size is 0 to it, so that any library routines try to read from the standard input or write to standard output or error will have no effect there. Even if the daemon was started for an interactive session, the daemon runs in the background and the login session can terminate without affecting the daemon there. Okay. Then there comes across with one more, error logging there. So what is this error logging? One problem a daemon has is how to handle error messages there. It cannot simply write to the standard error there. Okay, since it should, because it is not having the controlling terminal, it is not written to the standard errors there. We don't want all the daemons to write to the console devices there. Okay, since on so many workstations the console device runs a windowing system, a central daemon error logging facility is required. Okay, there are 3 things which happens to generate the log messages. One is kernel routines can log using this log function. Okay, so which ultimately opens and reads this particular device file called as /dv/klog. Then most user processes, that's a daemon, call syslog function to generate log messages. This causes the messages to be sent to the user Unix domain datagram socket called as /dv/log. Okay, and there is one more, a user process on this host or some other host that is connected to this host by the TCP/IP network can even send log messages to UDP port using the same syslog function there. Okay, so here you can just come across with this and block diagram for the same. The block diagram goes accordingly. You have user processes here, they use syslog and it is been generated to this particular file called as /dv/log. Okay, this indeed sends across with syslogd. Okay, using the syslogd, it is written to the file or to the logged in users or sent to another host there. Through UDP port 514 also it has been sent through. Then using /dv/klog also it has been sent through. Else some kernel routines, what will the kernel routines do is they use this log as an API and this is generated and it has been sent through this /dv/klog. Okay, else if at all it is with TCP/IP network, okay, through that also it will be sent across to the kernel. Okay, so this is what we call it across with the error handling with respect to any daemon processes there. Okay, so with the same one, okay, with the daemon process, whenever you are opening it, so these are some of the APIs which goes hand in hand with those things there. Okay, the syslogd daemon reads all the 3 forms of log messages there. Okay, it is reading the log messages from klog, it is reading from log, it is reading from syslogd. Okay, so you have these APIs which are supporting for that. One is openlog, it takes it uses across with the argument, 3 arguments called it as ident, option, facility. Okay, ident is nothing but using that's an identifier which is used across to open which particular thing are you going to open. Okay, option is nothing but are you going to read it or else are you going to write onto it. Okay, facility is nothing but is it through TCP/IP are you going to open it or else is it through UDP. Okay, so that is the one. So syslog is you are giving priorities. Okay, then you are using across with the format for the same. Okay, and the third argument is variable. Okay, the next one is close log, so wherein you are closing that particular log, and one more is you are setting the log mask there. So setting of the log mask is nothing but you are not making that particular signal to happen, so that is you are setting the log mask there. Okay, So these are the APIs. Then one more we have called it as single instance daemons. So single instance daemons are only a single copy of the daemon there. Okay, should be running at the time for proper operation. The file and record locking mechanism provides the basis for one way to ensure that only one copy of the daemon is running. Okay, if each daemon creates a file and places a write lock on the entire file, only one such write lock will be allowed to be created. Successive attempts to create write locks will fail, serving as an indication to successive copies of the daemon that another instance is already running there. File and record locking provides a convenient mutual exclusion mechanism. If the daemon obtains a write lock on the entire file, the lock will be removed automatically if the daemon exists there. Okay, this simplifies recovery, removing the need for us to clean up from the previous instance of the daemons there. Okay, so this is with your single instance daemons. These are the respective APIs which has been supported by the daemons. Okay, this is how the error logging is been filed in daemon processes. Then this is the coding rules for daemon process to be created. These are the characteristics for your daemon there. Okay, thank you.